So what happens when two third-generation Arizona women authors who are passionate about their state start talking about experiences, insights, and memories of different places? They don't stop talking. They write a book, and then they start a podcast. Welcome to Celebrating Arizona with Julie Morrison and Lisa Schnebly Heidinger. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z. And we're off.
I feel so lucky every time I hear that.
Well, yes. Yes, indeed. That is the word. Yeah, our own music on our own show.
Yeah,
Who'd
what's
have
not to
think?
like?
Right?
Did we just start or are we starting now?
I get, are we Sultan or are we Sultan?
I think we just started then.
Okay, very good.
How are you, Julie?
Oh, I'm well. Okay, no, that's funny because when you say, "Well, I'm feeling lucky," it's like, wait. We
You
can't,
were till you thought?
right? Like, well, I think isn't there something about sort of like feeling lucky maybe has a little different connotation? Getting lucky has a connotation.
Getting
Okay,
lucky
it's
definitely
getting
has a
lucky.
connotation.
Okay, and if I don't know where the connotation goes, then maybe I haven't been lucky enough. So we'll ride right on past all of that.
We won't use getting and feeling in the sentence together
We
for
should.
now when it comes to luck.
And so now we've done a lot of circling around how I am. How are you?
I'm well, and actually, I'm kind of excited to tell you where we're going to go.
Tell me.
We are going to go to the Bradshaws. Um,
Oh,
the Bradshaws and Larry, Daddy, referred to the Bradshaws for years before I actually looked and thought, okay, those are the Bradshaws to which he refers. But when he was growing up, I-17 wasn't a thing.
right.
And so if you were coming from north, you either had to do that, what to me is interminable route around Yarnell, Peoples Valley, and in,
Right.
or equally interminable would be going down. How did they used to do that?
Go through
Uh,
Payson.
Over Mingus,
Oh,
Black
got it. Yeah.
Canyon, White Spar, whatever White Spar is. Anyway, all of that is Bradshaw country. So he was much more,
Okay.
he knew the Bradshaws better than I ever will.
Yeah.
But I liked the Bradshaws. And I remember, I think it was Secretary of State Ken Bennett when he was in office on the 8th floor of the Capitol and said that he loved being able to see snow on the Bradshaws from his office.
Well, and that makes sense because doesn't he own property in the Prescott area? So he would know the Bradshaws because,
Exactly.
so just to
Yes.
check my own geography, Bradshaws are basically south of Prescott and Prescott Valley. They're
I
the
would say
range that you look at.
southeast, but yes,
Okay.
exactly.
They're the
Yeah.
range you look at from Thumb Butte and so
Rock
forth to the
Spring
south of you.
Cafe,
Got it.
Crown
Okay.
King, Wickenburg. Well, Wickenburg's not in the Bradshaws, but yeah, all those are in the neighborhood of the Bradshaws,
Okay. Good.
which is why we're going there. And we're actually going there today. This is another one of those pieces where a lot of threads get connected. And
Okay.
I love how many threads this woman was connected to. So my actual premise today starts again with Daddy.
Okay.
20 years ago, probably, I went in and there was one of those Signals magazines, and I'd turn out a page and I said, "This is what I want for Christmas." And it's a board game, and it's something like Wild Women of the West Ride the Trail of Truth.
Nice.
And it's a whole bunch of little question cards. And probably even the first time any of us played it, pretty soon we just stopped moving the little horses on the board and asked questions.
Yeah.
But then, and they have little, what I suspect are made up quotes from salty Western women. But anyway, the concept of the untamed woman, as you probably know, is a favorite of mine, and a favorite idea. And so this is one of those women, Ida Genung. And
Ida Gina.
Ida Genung. Recently,
Okay.
I spent way too much time trying to remember what the heck her name was and remembered virtually everything else I liked about her. And finally, the name came limping in like an abashed husband after a wild night out. And I remembered that it was Ida Genung.
Who's a writer? Raise your hands. Wow. Okay.
But Ida was fascinating and is lesser known. What she's known for later was surviving the Walnut Grove flood because of a premonition. And someday we will have a much longer talk about the Walnut Grove flood.
I hope
Suffice to say
so.
right now that she woke up, thought something was wrong, picked up the kid living at home in their nightgowns, went to high ground, and when she came back, everything was gone.
Mm.
Everything was gone.
Wow.
And she just had a feeling.
Wow.
But long before that, she was only 4 when her family moved from Idaho out to California. And they fell in very quickly with, you may have heard of Pauline Weaver. Pauline being a derivative, his name was Powell Weaver,
Mm.
but then Hispanic people who met him called him Paulino. So
Mm.
white guys who followed called him Pauline.
Pauline. Mm-hmm.
So in Arizona lore, he is Pauline Weaver. Anyway, Ida's dad was
Is this maybe of the weaver's needle in the superstitions?
I would bet that's true. I'd never made that connection. But
More homework.
he
Okay.
guided, led, prospected. He knew, as trappers do, he knew the area, knew a lot of areas. So it's got to be, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah, it's got to be Pauline's. And I certainly think Weaver's Needle's a better name than Pauline's Needle.
The alliteration. It works.
So anyway, Ida's a little girl. Her dad's a doctor. He meets Pauline when Pauline is really ill and cures him, which endears Pauline Weaver to this family. And so even before Ida's a teenager, she has learned to shoot and spit and rope and ride and swear by none other than Pauline Weaver, which I feel like is learning maybe how to play baseball from John Wayne. I mean, the skill is not specific to the guy, but what a guy to learn anything from.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And
Yes,
you know,
nice.
that's just cool. He does teach her how to pan gold. So
Okay.
she falls in love with and marries a guy named Charlie Genung. And I will say, I'll call it out, I think Charlie is dreamy. Charlie Genung, you know how old photos frequently have that deer in the headlights, I belong to another century look?
Yes.
Charlie looks a lot more like Jimmy Buffett than another century. He was rakish and dashing and described as a rambling man. So I think that probably fit. Another thing I like about Ida is that I remember reading that for her wedding, her brother gave her, quote, a dog and 2 Colt 45s.
Personal security system.
And you think,
Wow.
well, and that speaks to so much more than a jam spoon or you know, that to him, that was a
chafing
logical
dish. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was a logical wedding present. So Ida does all kinds of interesting things, but then she and Charlie come to Arizona. He gets kicked by a mule the first day out. So she drives, you and I can appreciate this, the mules learn on a 350-mile trip to the Wickenburg area,
Wow.
which
From
and
California,
yeah,
moving to Wickenburg. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we've got lots of mountain ranges to get through.
We do, and a woman who is a good driver. And I think you know that even though I love driving, sometimes I think, okay, it's been a long drive. I
Yeah,
can't
right.
imagine mules for 350 miles.
Yeah.
But she did that.
Yeah.
So go her. So that was part of Ida. And then she fell in with Henry Wickenburg and began cooking for him. And her
Oh,
first
wow.
dinner ever, she had made like 6 pies and a huge repast for all of his people. And a cow ate all of it, all the pies, everything.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
don't know what they did for dinner that night, but I thought
Eat
a
the
lot of
cow?
things have happened. They should have. But I've never had to worry about a cow eating my dinner.
It's just true. Yeah.
It's and she was also friends with Allie Earp, who was
Oh.
Virgil's wife.
Oh,
After Virgil
wow.
got shot, remember, I only
Yeah.
have one good arm to hug you with.
Yes, yes.
He was prospecting. He ran for sheriff in Yavapai County, but he dropped out pretty quick. But he and Allie homesteaded near Kirkland. So we have all these places together. We've got Wickenburg here, kind of near the
Yes.
Bradshaws. Kirkland is kind of near the Bradshaws. Crown King is in the Bradshaws. Walnut Grove is in the Bradshaws. So all these
Okay.
Arizona historical figures are just sort of circling in and out of Ida's world, which is essentially
Yes.
the Bradshaws.
And that makes a lot of sense. It's a milder climate. You have
That's a
creeks
good
coming through
point.
there, river, like you have water. This is making a lot of sense to
There's
me.
a lot more of
Yeah.
what people want in the Bradshaws. Yeah, that
Yes,
makes sense.
yeah.
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 So Ida rubs elbows with all these nice people, and doesn't die till she's in her late 80s. And so, two things about Ida that I like. One, there is a woman who I may talk about at length someday named Kate Corey, who is an artist. Yeah, I will talk about Kate someday. But she asked Ida to pose for her. She wanted to do a painting when
Oh.
Ida was quite old. And I just said, okay, but only if I can still be darning socks and peeling potatoes while I pose. She wouldn't sit still,
Oh,
which I
wow.
think is such a wonderful metaphor.
Yes.
You can paint me, but I'm not sitting still.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Pioneer Mother is at the Charlotte Hall Museum. I think.
Oh, the portrait.
So I love that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
the portrait. And then the button hook fact that I really love about Ida is that the only time she ever locked Charlie out of the house was he had been on a journey with, wait for it, Charlotte Hall,
Oh,
our own first historian. He had guided
interesting.
her all over northern Arizona. And at that time, he was 40 and Charlotte was 33. I don't think of Charlotte as universally recognized as toothsome, but if you're the only two of you and you're out for 2 weeks or longer in the wilds of northern Arizona, anything could happen. But anyway,
Is it only ladies that are toothsome? Or do we
I
know?
would think it would
More
be
homework. This is the season. This is the episode for homework.
someday somebody's
Yeah.
going to review this podcast and they're going to say, they ask more questions than
Yeah.
they ever
Do they know
answer.
anything?
And they will be
Just
right.
ask things.
I'm
Yeah.
going to opine that toothsome would be an equal opportunity application. And I don't know further, could you be a toothsome pumpkin pie
Oh,
or a
right.
toothsome, I mean, appealing.
Yes.
Oh God, I hope I
Oh
remember to
no.
look this up.
Oh no. And like you said, appealing, and my thought went to potatoes. And so this
Oh, well, at least now we have a full circle.
I am in rare form. Okay. So anyway, so the point is that the only time she locked her husband out of the house was when he had been 2 weeks afield.
Squiring our
Um,
state historian around.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
I like the idea of her being the star of an extremely small story in Arizona, being Walnut
Mm.
Grove Flood,
Hmm.
and having so many ancillary brushes with people who are known for their own stories, i.e., Pauline Weaver,
Yes.
Henry Wickenburg,
Yes.
Virgil Earp, Charlotte Hall.
Yes.
That it's like what? It's like a whole collection, and maybe she's a bit player in all of those, but boy, she is main center stage for surviving the Walnut Grove flood.
I read a book. It's an interesting way to think about history, to center a story on something that is less well known. I read a book, and it was a work of fiction, but it was something like the Mandolin Diaries or something, and it traced the history of owners of this one mandolin across centuries. And so, and that's how they, so it sounds as though, across
Okay.
relationships, Ida may have been our lesser known, but hub at the center of many, many interesting spokes.
So the main character in this book was not the most famous mandolin owner. It was just the
No.
person who ended up with a mandolin that had been owned by other people.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Ida Genung is the mandolin owner of Arizona history.
Something like this. Yeah. Yeah.
She's going, well, I'm Swan. I never thought I'd be called a
That's what I
mandolin
haven't been
holder.
called before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And I don't think I've ever
excellent.
said I Swan on the air.
No,
So that
no,
just
that's
that came
excellent.
out of
Is
somewhere.
Do we think that's local to is that a Bradshaw's accent? Or an old Arizona?
Sure
Or
it is. My northern Arizona forebears, and I haven't. Well, I don't know your forebears. I only know your parents, and Larry and Lee don't have it either. But there is certainly a rural
Mm.
flavor to my general northern Arizona forebears. Lucille used
Okay.
to say, "I spec, I reckon."
Okay.
So maybe having a woman in northern Arizona, and I don't think I ever heard her specifically say "I Swan," but it fits in my image of what rural northern Arizona women would say.
Can you help us with if we were to write down look it up in the dictionary, I swan would be, how would that appear?
I declare. It would
Oh,
be ISWAN. I
really?
Swan. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's take a wee break and then we'll come back and ask you where we're going from the Bradshaws.
Okay, sounds good.
We are proud to welcome our newest sponsor, Discover Flagstaff. They run the Flagstaff Visitors Center, the old train depot, which has been recognized by Phoenix Magazine as the best visitor center in the state. They have a really good staff. They have a wonderful gift shop. People there will help you plan itineraries. And there's a coin-operated model train that is billed as great for the kids, but I've seen a lot of adults who enjoy it too. Stop by the Flagstaff Visitor Center. So, we're in the Bradshaws. Get us out
Yes.
and take us somewhere.
So we're going north.
Okay.
We are going north just outside of Flagstaff, where we will then go west and up the side of Mount Humphreys as though we are going to
Oh,
Snowbowl.
oh, okay.
Yep. So we're going up the Snowbowl Road.
So north
And
face, basically.
yep, yep. North face.
No,
Is that right? No,
south face.
south
Pardon me.
face.
South face.
South
Excuse
face.
me. Yes.
Yep. And we will not go as far as Snowbowl because at some point we're going to see a mass of cars pulled off the road next to a brown Forest Service sign that probably had a map on it once, and one of the wonderful brown, sort of lower signage saying, trail numbers in yellow letters. And I can think of none of those specifics, but what I know this place as is Aspen Tank. And so you pull off the Snowbowl Road where you start to see the most glorious stand of aspens, yellow aspens ever. And they're very accessible. What's wonderful about this is that because a
Oh.
lot of Flagstaff folk that I met love Lockett Meadow, but my experience trying to get to Lockett Meadow was essentially taking your own life in your hands because the road seemed like, about the size of masking tape compared to your
Oh,
car.
interesting.
And I was really wigged out at the sense that at any minute we're going to go tumbling down the curves
Oh,
here.
wow.
And once you get there, what Lockett Meadow has is that wonderful cathedral effect where you can sort of stand on one of the switchbacks and look up, and the whole overhead is aspen leaves filtering the light, and it is stunning. I love Aspen Tank, I think, at any time of year because, and maybe my favorite times have been there have been in the summer when it's still holding some water and
Oh.
it is green, green meadow, and you can look out toward Bill Williams Mountain and look up toward Mount Humphreys. And of course, you can look both ways at any time of year, but it's green at that time. And an expansive green in Arizona is very special. But during the autumn is when it's a showplace.
Oh.
It's just incredible. And people are taking photos with, family photos or couple photos or selfies or, all kinds of things because the aspen stand is breathtaking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've never
Yeah.
seen either of those places. We always go to Hart Prairie for Aspen.
Okay. And that's a place that I didn't get to.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
so,
fortunately, it's still there. Yeah.
yeah,
We'll have
right.
to meet in Flagstaff and say, okay, I'm going to Aspen Tanks. You're going to Hart Prairie. Meet you back
Yes.
and
Now,
compare stories.
Hart Prairie is north face, right?
Yes, but it's on the
East
eastern
side.
slopes. And
Yep.
so it's
Yeah.
8,000 feet compared to Flag being 7.
Yeah, that Lockett
And
Meadow is toward that way as
okay,
well.
yeah,
Yep.
all
Yep.
right, that makes
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
And Tanks reminds me of a Larry story,
Oh,
which
yeah. And we should explain that. So when I say tank, I'm not
oh,
talking about metal thing. I
vehicle
am
of
talking about,
artillery.
yes, repository or something. I am thinking about a stock tank, which is more a hole in the ground, which is there for the purpose of capturing and storing water so that livestock can get to it. Other grazing animals that are ranging there too. I think a lot of people don't know that, elk are kept alive on the Arizona range, partly because we do have ranchers that are maintaining stock tanks. And so there's a lot of wildlife that gets water because of ranchers in national forests.
I didn't know
But
that.
yeah, but tell the Larry story. So that's what we mean when we're talking about
Okay.
tanks.
Yes,
Is it?
tanks.
Yes.
Good point. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought of that. Good for you.
Yeah.
So one time we were at the downtown diner, which years ago was Noel's Bakery, which may be a story of its own someday. But they used to have a live radio guy who would come down during coffee, and the whole town of Flagstaff coffeed in this Noel's Bakery. And I said to Lara, so how many of those people would have had rural accents?
Mm.
And he said, oh, 85, 90. And I said, well, you just said this is the attorneys, the secretaries, the bankers. And he said, well, yeah, but Flagstaff wasn't exactly a bustling metropolis, and most of them would have at least been raised in a somewhat rural setting. And of course, then you have, the rancher that, came in from Twin Tanks to pick up some part. And I said, Twin Tanks? Where's that? And he said, oh, I don't know. I probably made it up. I don't know. And I thought, I bet you didn't, because I think that when you are someplace that triggers an old memory, it triggers the whole kid or whatever. So we
Yeah.
went back to the Drury, and I looked up Twin Tanks, Arizona, and sure enough, it's not far out of Flag. I feel like it would be toward Lake Mary, but Twin
Oh.
Tanks is definitely real,
Oh, wow.
and probably just a double ditch that some rancher, dug forever ago.
Yeah.
Um,
To water livestock. Yeah.
yeah. But when I hear tank, I think Twin Tanks.
Oh, how fun. Yeah.
Our aspens probably at least one of both of our 2.5 favorite trees.
Okay, that's funny to have a half a favorite tree, but probably, I love the sycamore for the smell. So that's right up there.
Yeah.
Favorite trees. That's interesting. I suppose so. So you have the stand of aspen that greets you, and then you have the aspen that sort of come down the hill, and there's a grove west and downhill of the tank as well. And this is one of the places where you can look at the surface of the tank and see what the sky is
Oh,
doing,
how
because the
lovely.
water is so clear and the sky is so bright. So you'll see a sky scene in the water, and sometimes you have gold leaves floating there, and it's just,
Oh,
yeah, or green reeds on the sides. I took my dogs there, and I have wonderful pictures of my dogs charging through the very shallow water and being so happy to sniff around the tank. So it is a beloved and beautiful place. And the aspen, I think, like C.S. Lewis in Narnia talked about naiads and dryads, the tree spirits. And
okay.
it does seem to me that the aspen is a sure thing for having some kind of spirit. Surely a
Okay.
naiad or dryad would like the aspen because of
Oh,
their characteristic and maybe dramatic appeal. They have these very unique features. And
that's
so,
your inner poet. That's
yeah,
nice.
oh, well, thank you. And so, yeah, so that's Aspen Tank for me, a northward trip.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, today's coffee mug, we're going back south because
Okay.
it's from Crown King, where I
Oh,
confess I
good.
have never been. Tom brought this back from one of his trips. He loves a tough drive. And Crown King, I
Wow.
guess, is a mother of a tough drive. And so he has done it for fun, which to me sounds like I think I'll skewer my eyeball out today.
Yeah.
But he and I guess they have amazing fudge in Crown King too, but he brought back the Crown King mug. So
Wow.
that is today's mug. And shall we break before our question and our reading?
Certainly. Good.
Consider us broken. Or not.
We'll be better when we're back. Hi, this is Julie, and I'd like to introduce my friend Brian Jackson, who has a restaurant recommendation for you.
Scottsdale is a culinary mecca, boasting James Beard award-winning chefs and a diversity of restaurants to suit nearly everyone's palate. But when you want the taste of an old-fashioned American sandwich, there is no place better than the Sugar Bowl. Since 1958, the Sugar Bowl has been a Scottsdale staple, serving up delicious American fare and amazing ice cream sundaes. It's like going back in time to Grandma's house.
Okay, we're better, and we're
We're
back.
better. Both. Oh,
Yes.
and alliterative.
Yes, both of them. Not bad. Not bad. Okay.
Well, are you ready to consider a question?
Tell me, or rather ask me. Yes.
Okay. Hearkening back to Wild Women of the West riding the trail of truth,
It's so
when
great.
and you know my preoccupation with the phrase fierce femininity, I
Mm-hmm.
use it often enough. When do you feel fiercely feminine or femininely fierce or whatever?
Mm.
When do you think that's
I
when I'm her?
I have a couple of scenes that I'm flashing on from when I was ranching. I was helping to dig out a semi because of my own mistake. It had rained within the last week in Flagstaff, and it was spring, so it's still snowmelt season. The ground is wet anyway. I had called for a delivery of wood chip to put into the corrals to help with dust, to help with mud, to help with for exactly this reason. And the dear woman who was one of the owners of the company and who managed who did all the dispatch asked me, well, now, semis are heavy. Like, is it gonna be able to get in there? Or is it gonna get stuck? And I said, no, I think we're gonna be fine. We were
Oh,
so not fine.
do I remember this from Barbed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay,
I
I
had
thought.
this is in my book, Barbed, a memoir, toward the end when I'm trying to get the ranch on its sort of second generation of try. And I think the semi is going to be fine. No. But there I am with the shovel to like dig out the front wheels so that it can get out. And in that moment, yes, I had been wrong. Yes, I was embarrassed. And I also felt like, and I'm going to fix it. So rather than feeling foolish, I got to
Yeah.
feel like, I got to feel fierce around, I'm going to make this work somehow.
I think you nailed it. To me, fierce femininity is when you happen to be a woman and you step up in a way that either gender would be impressed with,
I
I
like
guess.
that. I
And
like
so, I mean,
that.
that's an
Yeah.
aspect of it at the very least.
Nice.
And when you say that, I certainly think that a lot of the Heart Prairie work we did felt like fierce
Okay.
femininity.
Yeah.
And chopping. Well, I didn't chop much, but hauling all the slash and rounds from the downed trees, and then
Yes.
making. First you throw them in the truck, and then you get the truck to the wood pile, and then you unthrow them, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And also, I flashed on going shooting.
Sure.
I that feels there's something elemental and fearless and competent, not in an oh I've studied for this kind of way, competent
Mm.
in sort of an innate
Capable.
I'm going to do this regardless way.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
that's it.
Well, will you read something to us?
I'm going to precede this just to help a little bit. I got to take a workshop once from a poet named Brian Turner, who has won some awards for his collection Here Bullet, because he took his deployment into the Gulf War and wrote poems about it.
Wow.
Yeah, in addition to being, a soldier and a veteran and a poet, he was also just a wonderful instructor. And one of the exercises he had us do is zooming out of a scene and then sort of zooming back in. And so I was playing with that as I put this together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, certainly. The title is one that goes sort of straight into the first line. So, fall is the title. And then the first line is the horsetail cloud in changing sky, as pictured in photos, beamed between summer lovers on a porch in a commercial for pizza delivery, flashing as background on the sitcom set, which, come October, is daily life in Arizona, seeming from June to surely be empty, easy, relaxed, and is now as packed as grocery candy aisles bursting with Halloween and Christmas pops, stuffing itself still on Thanksgiving, while the weather is the mother of teenagers insisting we take that off and moments later put something else on because nothing is quite right in a sitcom or on delivered pizza or with summer lovers out of season. And fall is basically an adolescent, alternately delighted and frustrated by change, like the possibility that the overhead horsetail swished from Pegasus himself. But this is a school night, so probably not. And there we are.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I had fun with
That's a
that.
lot of
It's a lot of
images.
images. Yeah. I know it can be done better,
Well,
but this led to a lot of fun.
but
And one of
there's
the
tremendous fun in it.
Yes, and I think that's one of the best things when you've got a great craft mechanic or a great craft centered prompt is that it may take you places that you wouldn't usually go. So,
That makes
so
sense.
I apologize if I lost people with this one. I never want to do that, but it was
You know what?
very fun.
If I were to have tumbled off during it, I would still call it a great ride.
Oh, that's
So,
kind. That's
so
kind.
yeah,
Yeah.
even if somebody's sitting dusty on the ground going, wait,
Going,
what?
what on earth? Can I have a
Last I
map?
remember was a
Yeah.
candy aisle, and here I am.
Oh, yes. And boy, and poems can do that. I know I've written some that do that just take leaps and your reader is nope, not getting there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And so what do you have for us today?
So we're going back to the Wild Women Trail of Truth,
Yes.
which actually this is lifted out of Good Old Chief Yellow Horse Lives On.
Oh, good.
And I don't remember the name of the essay, and I had to take out any reference to Charlotte Hall because she's going to be her own chapter down the road.
Mm.
But it starts talking about that game and then goes on. A decade later, a book called Women Who Run with Wolves made a splash. Since then, I've realized there are no new ideas, just new ways of presenting them. All
Mm.
art comes out of the same color wheel. Untamed women have been with us always. I'm not talking professional dilettantes or party girls. I'm talking about the woman in whom a spark of something burns a bit brighter, who maintains a perfectly circumspect life with the sense of something electric that may be on the brink of happening. It's that dual character that to me defines wildness in women, able to function in everyday affairs with efficiency and still indulge the burning impulse to range, to immerse in experiences and interaction. One such is Cynthia Billings, who rafted the Colorado as a crew member and did exuberant cartwheels with her tsunami of multicolored hair streaming behind her. She scrubbed the Dutch oven and hauled the boat to be offshore, but still wore long skirts preparing dinner. Wild women don't take the middle ground. They straddle the extremes.
Mm.
I imagine wild women are often exhausted. There aren't enough hours to dance every dance, meet every member of one's tribe, and still build an impressive resume without sacrificing rest. But that's the price of passage on the journey worth taking to wild women. They may not always exercise the best judgment, but they leave nothing on the field.
Oh, wow. All art comes from the same palette?
Same
Is
color
that
wheel.
from the same color wheel?
Yeah.
Oh, there's something just gorgeous and hopeful and just breathtaking about that for me. I love that
Interesting.
so much that
Oh.
we're all accessing that same brilliance, however it filters through us,
And
but
doing
that
very
it's the
different
same.
things with it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
lovely.
Oh, nice.
I guess it's hopeful because it feels like the same thing that could meet Picasso or Van Gogh can meet
Is
us
also in
to,
our hands.
is available to us too.
That's a
Which is
lovely
not
idea.
which is not to say that all of us are going to achieve or be who they were, but that it's accessible.
There's a
Yeah.
great wideness of spirit in what you just said.
Yes. I love that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for it.
Well, you are so welcome. And a pleasure and honor as always.
As always. Thank you very much. And thank you, listeners, for coming with us.
Amen. Celebrating Arizona. See you next time.
Celebrating Arizona. Bye for now.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blatney. And I'm Dana Cooper.